All right, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you guys, the test went well yesterday and you're enjoying your Friday. We are starting our last and final unit today. So this is Unit 8, and it's just basically an introduction into trig, which is what most of you are going to be taking next year. Some of this trig you guys already know, but there's a little bit of new stuff that we'll be doing next week. So here's our calendar. Today, and then I hope to be back on Monday. We have one quiz and that's it, and then we have 5 days to get ready for our final, which will be on Thursday. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and go to the notes. All right. So we are going to be talking about right triangle trig today. I'm doing Soh Cah Toa, which hopefully we recognize that. And the way that I like to write Soh Cah Toa is the following. So that way we always remember the actual ratios. So remember that O stands for opposite. A stands for adjacent, and H stands for hypotenuse. Okay, now the hypotenuse is always the same. It's always the side across from the right angle. So here is our right angle. So the hypotenuse is always across from that, okay? Also, when you label a triangle, little a is across from big A, little b is across from big B, and little c is across from big C. And this is going to be our hypotenuse. Now, the adjacent and opposite side can change depending on which acute angle you're working with. Remember that acute means less than 90 degrees, and when you're working in a right triangle, both angle A and angle B are going to be acute. So let's start off with angle A first. So for angle A, across from this is going to be opposite, and then right next to is going to be adjacent. Okay, so sine of A is opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite is A, hypotenuse is C. And then cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so adjacent is B, hypotenuse is C. And then tangent is opposite over adjacent, so A over, let me erase that real quick, A over B. Okay, all right, we need to do the same thing for angle B. So for angle B, this is going to be the opposite side, and this is going to be the adjacent side. So sine of B is going to be B over C. Cosine of B is going to be A over C. And then tangent is going to be B over A. If we look at our trig ratios, notice that sine and cosine are the same of opposite angles, and then same thing here. And then the tangent are flipped depending on which angle you are working with. Okay, so just let's make sure we remember Soh Cah Toa. All right, so go ahead, you guys need calculators today. It doesn't matter if it's scientific or graphing, but if you are using graphing, make sure that your calculator is in degrees. How do you do that? Go to mode, which is on the left-hand side of your calculator, and make sure that degrees are highlighted. So the first thing we're going to do is just literally practice plugging these into our calculators. So you should see sine, cosine, and tangent right above the parentheses. Okay, so just go ahead and press tangent of 67 and round to 4 decimal places, and we should get 2.3559. Okay, and then go ahead and do numbers 2 and 3, please. And once again, if you didn't get the answer that I got for tangent, make sure that your calculator is in degrees. So for number 2, we should get 0.4384, and then number 3, 0.1045. All right. Okay, let's look at the next set of calculator examples. Notice that we have this little -1 on all these problems. Okay, that doesn't mean to the negative first power. That means that you are taking the inverse and that you are looking for an angle. Oh, sorry. Trying to write finding an angle. There we go. Okay, so anytime that you want to find an angle, you always use the inverse in your calculator. How you do that is you hit second and then the trig function. So for this example, I would do second cosine of 1/4, and you would get approximately 75.22. Oh, sorry, I missed a 5225. Okay, you are finding an angle, and our calculator is in degrees, so you need to make sure that you have the degree symbol. Okay. All right, go ahead and try the next 2 examples, please. Okay, and we should get this one to be approximately 18.4349 degrees, and then the next one 57.8869 degrees. So once again, anytime you are trying to find an angle, you want to use the inverse operation in your calculator, which is that little -1. So you hit second, the trig function, and then round to 4 decimal places and include your degree symbol. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is solve for x. Now notice it says round to the nearest 10th, which means 1 decimal place. So if I want to get x by itself, I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 35. So I get x to be 35 sine of 75 degrees. So just go ahead and plug that into your calculator. And we should get approximately 33.8. Okay, we're not finding an angle here, so you do not need your degree symbols. Okay, notice that the x is part of the ratio, not the angle. Okay, notice that in number 2, the x is in the denominator this time. So to start, we actually need to multiply both sides by x because we need to get the x out of the denominator. And then to get x by itself, we're going to divide by cosine of 24 degrees. So we get x to be 52 over cosine of 24 degrees. And we should get approximately 56.9. Okay. Once again, we are finding part of the ratio because that's what trig functions are. We are not finding an angle, so we do not need the degree symbol. All right, go ahead and try number 3, please. Okay, and then when you're done solving, go ahead and share your answer with your partner. And so we should get x to be 14 over tangent of 61 degrees, which is approximately 7.8. Okay. So in all three of those examples, we were finding part of the trig ratios. Notice that examples 4, 5, and 6, what we are actually missing is the angle, okay, because it says sine of x. So anytime you are finding an angle, you need to use the inverse operation in your calculator. Hopefully you've taken a really big active note about that already. So we're going to do the inverse sine of 15 over 17. So you're going to do second sine, and then 15 divided by 17. We're rounding to the nearest tenth, which is 1 decimal place. And since we are finding an angle this time, we need to use the degree symbol. Okay. All right, same thing with number 5. We are finding an angle, so we need to use the inverse operation in our calculator. Okay. I always think it helps to write these down, what we're doing, even though I know you can probably just plug them in your calculator without writing everything down. But this way, when you refer back to your notes, you understand what we did. So number 5, once you do inverse cosine, you should get 60 degrees. All right, go ahead and do number 6, please. Okay, so you want to do the inverse tangent of 5, which is approximately 78.7 degrees. All right, well, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, this is just going to be working with Pythagorean triples without using a calculator. So let's go over. Remember that Pythagorean triples are numbers that make a squared plus b squared equals c squared, all integers, meaning no decimals. So 3, 4, 5 is one, 5, 12, 13, 7, 24, 25, 8, 15, 17, and then 9, 40, and 41. Now all of these, I could do multiples of them. So for example, if I did 3, 4, and 5 and multiplied it by 2, then 6, 8, and 10 would also be a Pythagorean triple. Okay, you should have these memorized. You should be able to recognize them fairly quickly. Okay, so if I was working with this first example, sine, remember, is opposite over hypotenuse. So then adjacent is going to be 15 due to the fact that this is a Pythagorean triple. And then cosine is the ratio of adjacent over hypotenuse. So we get 15 over 17. Okay. All right, let's do another example together. So number 2, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So I am missing opposite. This is a Pythagorean triple, so the opposite is 7. And then tangent theta is opposite over adjacent. So 7 over 24. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and try that last example on our own, please. Okay. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. So that means the hypotenuse would be 41. Good active note here for you guys is that the hypotenuse should always be the largest number. So sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So 9 over 41. All right, you guys have the remainder of the time to work on homework. So if you need to get a new notes pad or a new paper copy, you can. And then hopefully I will see you guys on Monday. Hope you all have a wonderful and safe weekend. See ya.